Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Larry Rafel. I have the great honor and privilege of serving as the fourth dean of the Touro College Jacob D. Fuchsberg Law Center. We want to welcome you to our home tonight. It is entirely appropriate that we host the debate for the Suffolk County executive position, and we thank the League of Women Voters for allowing us to do so. Since our inception, a little more than 30 years ago, we have been committed to working with Long Island to improve the lives of all of its citizens, and especially since we moved to this wonderful building 4 years ago, the first law school in the United States on a campus with a federal courthouse and a state courthouse. We have been enlarging our building to provide opportunities for our students to learn and understand and help the problems of the citizens of Suffolk County. So we have a public advocacy center, the first of its kind in the United States. We have a number of clinical programs. We have a number of externship programs, well over 100. So our students are getting out into the community, working for judges, for lawyers, and for advocacy groups in improving the lives of citizens. So we care deeply about Suffolk County. We care deeply about the way that Suffolk County is going to go. I might add that the Suffolk County legislature has found it appropriate to award a contract to Touro. We serve as the Senior Citizens Law Center. We represent the 200,000 senior citizens of Suffolk County. We are thrilled, we are honored to do so, and we really do an outstanding job in representing senior citizens in all facets of their life. So it's just that example of the kinds of things that we do to make Suffolk County a better place to live, and we hope that in the next term of the next county executive, we can work with that person and work hand in hand to increase the progress of this county. So thanks very much for coming. Congratulations to the two candidates for what you're representing tonight, and thank you to the League for allowing us to be here. Thanks so much.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Judy Gorenstein. I'm Voter Service Chair of the League of Women Voters of Suffolk County. As some of you know, the League is a voluntary, nonpartisan organization that encourages active, informed participation in government, which is why we are so pleased to be here tonight. We want to thank the host and co-sponsors of this debate, Touro Law Center, the Bar Association, the Student Bar Association, Long Island Women's Agenda, and of course, the two candidates, Angie Carpenter and Steve Ballone, and all of you in the audience who by coming here show that you want to be informed voters. Will you all stand up and join in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I'm turning the rest of the evening over to the President of the League of Women Voters of Suffolk County and our moderator for this evening, Lisa Scott.
We can clap for you, right?
Thank you. Thank you very much and welcome. I'd like to just explain how we're going to manage the time with the debate. Each candidate has been told that they have 2 minutes to make an opening statement. Subsequent to that, I'll be asking some prepared questions. Each candidate will get 1 minute to respond. We're going to alternate who answers first. Then their opponent may also answer the same question. Rebuttals are permitted for a minute. Also, there is a league tradition of making debates interesting. So what we have are what we call red cards. And each of the candidates will be allowed 2 red cards, which will give them an extra minute if they want to pursue a particular question beyond their allotted time. Then they'll have a 3rd red card, which will allow them to introduce a question of their opponent. And they can do that at any pause in the proceedings, not in the middle, obviously, of another topic. So, 3?
Thank you.
And 3?
Thank you.
Also, in fairness, we have 2 timers up front from the League of Women Voters of the Hamptons. Angie Glorian Burke, who's the president of the Hamptons League, co-president of the Hamptons League, will be timing you and indicating how much time you have left. Susan Wilson, also on the board of the Hamptons League, will be timing Steve Ballone. They're both managing the clock. We've kept it as simple as possible to make sure everything goes smoothly on that. Also, we're allowing each candidate to make a 2-minute closing statement, which will be their resounding call to why you should be voting for that particular candidate. We will have just under an hour, probably about an hour, to maximize our questions. So without further ado, again, cell phones, applause, and welcome to both our candidates. For the opening statement, and you didn't do any game of chance to select. So we'll do this in reverse alphabetical order this time. So, Ms. Carpenter, would you like to make your opening statement, please?
Certainly. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this evening, and to all of you who took the time to come and listen and look at the candidates up close and personal and make an informed decision when you go to the polls next Tuesday. I am Angie Carpenter, as you know. I'm running for Suffolk County Executive because I believe with all of my heart that I have what it takes to do the job. And there's a lot that it takes to do this job, and I understand that. You see, I've spent nearly 19 years in Suffolk County government, but I'm not entrenched. I'm not your typical politician. I truly like to consider myself an elected official, not a politician. I'm there for the people, to make government work for the people. I've spent nearly 13 years in the Suffolk County Legislature, nearly 6 years as the county's treasurer, fully understanding what it is to manage the finances of this county. You know, you can prepare budgets. They're nothing more than planning documents, difficult though they be. And in the legislature, you dispose of the budget, you tweak it, you make the adjustments to make it work. But then it goes to those that have to govern, who have to make that budget work. And sitting there with the checkbook and understanding what it is to need a $33 million payroll every 2 weeks, and having that understanding from working in the private sector, that is the dimension that I bring to the county executive that is truly going to make history. We have never had someone serve as the county executive who has that kind of requisite governmental, business, and plain old life experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. Mr. Ballone, 2 minutes, opening statement.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Toro Law School for having us here today. Thank you, Dean. I am not a graduate of Toro Law School, but I did take a couple of my classes here at Toro Law School to earn my law degree, so I thank Toro, and it's a pleasure to be here. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for the wonderful job that you do and have been doing for so many years in our country, moderating these debates. And thank all of you for coming out. I want to thank my opponent, Angie Carpenter, as well. I am running for county executive today because our county is in a fiscal mess. We have a $135 million hole in the budget that was just submitted for 2012. Our debt in this county has been doubled in the last 8 years, and we face regional challenges that threaten the quality of life of every family in this county. And I believe that we have created a model of government in Babylon during my 10 years as town supervisor, as chief executive of one of the largest governments in the state of New York, that we desperately need at the county level. We have significantly reduced the size of our government. We have made it more efficient, more effective. Our government today in Babylon is 24% smaller than it was when I took office as town supervisor. That translates into about $35 million in savings for taxpayers. We've also reduced debt every year that I've been in office, so that we now have a 20% lower debt burden. And we have kept taxes low in our town. The average resident today, with the budget that we've just submitted, will be paying about $95 more than they were 11 years ago. If all of our taxing jurisdictions on Long Island had that kind of record, we wouldn't have the tax problems we have today. These are very serious challenges we face. I have the experience and the record of governance in Babylon to be able to become county executive and get us moving in the right track on day one.
Thank you. The first question, and again, the questions will be 1 minute. Both candidates will answer the question and will be allotted 1 minute for a rebuttal if desired. So, Mr. Ballone, you'll get this first question, and then Ms. Carpenter. And the question is, what is your style of leadership? How transparent will your administration be, and can you delegate? Give us some examples.
It's a good question. My style of leadership is to work to bring people together. And one of the things that I consider a strength of mine, although it may seem counterintuitive, is I know that I don't know most things, that I am not an expert on most things. I happen to know some people in this business who think they are an expert on everything. I think that is a weakness. So in order to make judgments, make determinations, make decisions, which you have to do as a town supervisor every day on a complex set of issues, I need to bring people in, hear all the various viewpoints, and then make a determination and a judgment on how to move forward. That's how I've always governed, and that's the style of governance I will bring to Suffolk County. And I work very closely with all of our civic organizations, all of our community groups, in talking about and really bringing people along in terms of the things that we need to accomplish. So my style is to work to bring people together, to hear from the experts, and then to communicate with and listen to the community.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter, same question?
I think that if one can talk about a reputation, the reputation I've had in my years in governing has been that it has been very participatory, involving the public, involving communities, being there at the meetings, not sending a representative to the meetings, being there myself at the meetings, really getting involved. And that is the kind of county executive I'm going to be. I know that when I was in the legislature and represented the Bayshore Brightwaters West Islip community, we had a lot of projects that we worked together on. Touro School of Health Sciences would not have happened had we not worked together on it in downtown Bayshore. The extension of the Suffolk County Community College would not have happened if we had not worked together, if I had not been hands-on and working on it. That kind of up-close, personal, and empowering all the stakeholders, bringing people together on a regular basis. This is what I do. This is what I really enjoy, because that's how we really effectuate positive change.
Thank you very much. The next question will start with Ms. Carpenter. In what order do you rank the essential services of the county if you become county executive, and why would you rank the services that way?
Well, right now, being out there, engaging the public, hearing from them what their needs are, the economy and jobs is at the top of the list. Those who don't have jobs are desperately looking for them. Those who have them are desperately trying to hang on to them. So I think providing the blueprint, the solutions for Suffolk that I have in place, that speaks to things like transparency, that speaks to things like cutting the red tape in government, having government truly be there, to be there for the people when you need it, not get in the way, and certainly not get in your pocketbook.
Thank you. Mr. Ballone?
I think clearly economic development is at the top of the list. If we're going to solve the fiscal problems of this county, and if we're going to meet the challenges that we face as a region, we need to grow this economy. But I would put all of these very closely together, because one of the things that I have found during my time as town supervisor is all of these challenges sort of intermingle with one another. You cannot address issues and things in a vacuum. You have to be working to address the challenges we face in a comprehensive way. So economic development at the top of the list, but all of these very closely ranked together. Law enforcement, I have a plan for how we do law enforcement in this county in a better, in a more efficient way. And then I would say social services. We need to look at social services on a system-wide basis so that we're able to deliver those services more cost-effectively. And then health services. All of these represent major challenges in the county. I have detailed plans on how we're going to address each of those different issues.
Okay, thank you. This next question starts with Mr. Ballone. You're going to be hopping up and down here.
I'm used to it. I have kids.
All right, this is a blend of a league question and a question that came from Turo's Student Bar Association. Over the years, people moved to Suffolk County because of reasonably priced housing and availability of good-paying jobs. The children of those people are now leaving Long Island because this situation no longer exists. How would you encourage industry as well as reasonably priced housing in Suffolk County, and what programs do you propose to attract professionals, such as young lawyers, to Suffolk County? So it's a multifaceted question.
Yes, well, at the core of the question, I think, is what is driving young people off of Long Island? Why, as a region, do we have more people leaving here than any other region in the country? To me, that should be like the canary in the coal mine, an indication that we are doing something seriously wrong in this region. And there's not one thing that is driving young people off Long Island. That's what we have to understand. There are multiple factors, and these are interconnected. We don't have enough diversity in our housing stock. For a mature suburban region, you would want to have about 35% quality, affordable rental housing stock. We have about 18% in this region. So when young people come home from college, where are they supposed to go? They can go back to their parents' house, they can rent an illegal basement apartment, or they can move to another region, and that is unfortunately what they're doing. We need to create vibrant places that are attractive to young people, that have quality, affordable rental housing. The place to do that is in our downtowns. I've been doing that work in Babylon for 10 years, in Wyandotte, in East Farmingdale, Copeg, and we have transportation plans to help make that happen.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
We all know what we need to do, but we need to find out how to get there. And one of the easiest things we can do is cut the red tape, cut the bureaucracy. Right now, not far from here, in a downtown, in the hamlet of Bayshore, in a community that wanted an affordable housing project on a vacant parcel that had been vacant for 20 years, it took 5 years for the developer to get the permission to put a shovel in the ground. That is clearly absurd and totally unacceptable. We need to have government be there to help move these projects along. Certainly not do anything inappropriate, but have it be a mechanism. And my plan for Suffolk, my solutions for Suffolk, clearly does that.
Thank you. We actually have a follow-up question from the audience that relates to this subject. We have many depressed areas in Suffolk County. In this economic crisis, how can you improve the economy in these areas without raising taxes on other residents in the county?
Well, you need to look at cutting costs. You need to start thinking outside the box. Clearly, everyone knows the major component of one's property tax bill is the school taxes, and no one seems willing to address that. I've already started discussions, and it's met with very positive response, and that is the idea of putting out town-wide school districts. And I'm not talking about consolidating the schools, but consolidating the governance. We did this in a not-for-profit that I've been involved in, and it's worked very well. There is no need to have a school superintendent in each and every hamlet. In Virginia, in Maryland, they have county-wide districts. Certainly that would have been a little radical to propose at this point, but I think if we start with town-wide districts where you have one superintendent, Marty Kanza, a noted economist, has done the preliminary study on it, and just using the model of the 5 western towns, we would save anywhere from $35 to $40 million the first year. That's huge. That's money that can go back into the classroom.
Thank you.
We have depressed areas throughout Long Island, and I have a fundamental belief that we can no longer afford, as a county or as a country, to leave areas like this just sitting there fallow, a tremendous waste of human resources, of land resources, where we have to pump in huge amounts of social services dollars and tragically misallocate huge amounts of criminal justice dollars. We've been working on a plan in a community called Wyandotte, the most economically distressed community on Long Island, and for 10 years now. And we are now on the verge of having an agreement with a private sector developer that will bring in the first phase alone, over $100 million in private investment to rebuild a new downtown in the hamlet of Wyandotte that will fundamentally change the economic trajectory of the community and take all of those properties, those empty lots, those dilapidated storefronts, and put them back on the tax rolls so all of our taxpayers can benefit.
Thank you. I just want to remind you can.
Yeah, I am going to ask about that because I've heard about it time and time again. 10 years of planning. 10 years of planning. And what has been accomplished? This is exactly what we can't afford to do any longer. You can't have these grandiose ideas and plans and 10 years and you still haven't accomplished anything. The community is still the same as it was. Nothing has been accomplished. You've just put hopes out there that aren't going to be realized.
I can respond to that?
Yeah.
Well, I think what you just heard is exactly what's wrong with our politics today. There is nothing of any great significance or import that happens in one election cycle or one term. Unfortunately, in our politics today, there is too much of a focus on what's going to help me in my next election. Short-term thinking, short-term planning. That's what's led Long Island and Suffolk County to where we are today, in this slow decline where young people are leaving. A region that has all of these incredible attributes. Not only do we need to do great planning, which we have done in Babylon, we need to do strategic investments that will leverage private sector investment in a way that will create prosperity for all of our residents over the long term. That's what we've done in Babylon. That's what we desperately need in Suffolk County, and we've been sorely lacking.
Thank you. I think we'll continue on a couple of economic questions here, too. This one, again, is from the audience. Mr. Bologna, you'll get this one first.
Yes.
For a college graduate who is looking to start a new business in Suffolk County, what should the role of the county be in supporting this sort of effort?
Well, I've said many times throughout the course of this campaign, the single biggest impediment to economic development on Long Island has been and continues to be government. It is government, let me say, that has failed to do the things necessary to facilitate strong private sector economic growth, the types of things we've been working to do in Babylon. So we need to reform government. We need to make it work. In the town of Babylon, we have created accountability from top to bottom in our organization. We were the first municipality to install GPS in all of our vehicles, our entire vehicle fleet, the first in the Northeast region. We have broken down the various functions of our government so that we now have performance measures attached to each step of each function of what we do. So there is clear accountability in our government. That's how we've been able to reduce the size of government by 24%, but still do more than we ever have before. So I will start with the agencies in county government that are related to economic development, the health department, economic development and planning, and we will make them work.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
It seems to me that if you've developed a model for government, you don't need GPS in the vehicles for accountability. It seems to me if your department heads are taking the lead from the leadership from the top, that these performances that need to be done by employees can be done without Big Brother watching. But to answer the question, I think that what we need to do is have government be what it can be. We have a planning department. We have a Department of Economic Development. We have to let them be proactive. We need to have them working together, not in silos, because very often the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. We have a lot of programs out there, and we need to get that information out there to the public. This can be done, again, it's part of my solutions for Suffolk. Not grandiose plans that are going to sit on the shelf for 10 years, but real good, solid action plans that will work.
Thank you. Any comment on
Yes.
this?
I just think that response shows a lack of understanding for how you create accountability in an organization. Look, government is inefficient. That's not a revelation that I'm stating there. And there's a reason for it. Because unlike the private sector, there is nothing driving efficiency in government. In government, unlike the private sector, there is no bottom line. In the private sector, if you are not getting more efficient, you will be out of business. In government, no matter how badly we perform, we will never go out of business. We will always be here. So if you want government to be efficient, you have to create accountability structures in your organization. This is not Big Brother watching. This is making sure that you have systems in place that hold everyone accountable. And by the way, 98% of the people in government today, don't listen to the people across the country who are slamming public sector workers. We've done an amazing thing with our workers. 98% want to do the right thing and do the right thing. Government has to make sure that the other 2% are held accountable.
Ms. Carpenter? No?
No.
Okay. The next question is, again, something we had prepared and also a question from the audience. And Ms. Carpenter, this goes to you first. And the question is, you've both recently been quoted as criticizing the $2.7 billion spending plan of outgoing County Executive Steve Levy. Can you give any specifics of how your spending plan as County Executive would have been different and avoid the layoffs caused by the budget shortfall?
I have been critical of some of the components. The fact that there were 700 layoffs planned in the budget, the fact that there was kind of a implied message that if the unions would make some concessions, then maybe there wouldn't be layoffs. So again, we're playing with people's lives, and that's not the way to do things. I think that we have to look again at finding ways to maximize the resources that we have in this great county. We have Gabreski Airport. The county owns Gabreski Airport. That is so underutilized. It would be so easy to effectuate an operating airport, an international airport at Gabreski. We have the power and the ability to do it because we own that asset. We have many, many more assets across this great county that we have not capitalized. Part of my solutions for Suffolk is looking at creating that inventory of everything we have in place and utilizing them properly.
Thank you. Mr. Ballon?
Look, we have to recognize we didn't get into this fiscal mess in 1 year, and it's going to take more than 1 year to get out. It's going to take a multi-year, multifaceted strategy to do that with a county executive who is working with the legislature. We're going to have to do a number of things. We're going to need to do some one-shots. And by the way, the legislature has been doing incredible work in trying to actually put forward real budgets that make sense and that are not fake. So we're going to need to do some one-shots, although we're nearing the end of that. We're going to have to reform the way we do capital spending, direct it towards things that bring in revenue or create efficiency to lower expenses. We're going to have to reestablish a relationship with New York State. The current county executive has had many battles with New York State, but I don't know if anyone has noticed, we keep losing in this county. So we need a relationship with the state so that we can gain some revenues and help lower some expenses on those mandates. And we're going to need to grow the economy. This county is almost completely reliant on the sales tax. Steve Levy was right about one thing. You cannot do this by raising the general fund tax. We need to grow the economy.
Ms. Carpenter, do you want to respond?
I'm delighted to hear, and this is why forums like this are important, because my opponent has been hearing some of the things I have been saying for the past few months, and now he's adopting them. Unlike his quote in Newsday, when he commented on the budget and said that if he were in charge of the government, the county executive is not in charge of the government. I have said this time and time again, that it is the legislature working with the county executive and vice versa that will get us out of the dilemma that we're in. So I'm delighted to hear that you're learning from someone with a little bit more wisdom and is accepting the fact that you have to work with the legislature.
No. I'm sorry, you're going to lose questions if you interrupt. Please do not. Mr. Ballon, do you want to respond to that in any way?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Ballon, you get the next question.
Okay.
What is your position on the role of funding and the future of the multiple county health centers and also the John J. Foley Nursing Center?
Public health is a very serious issue, as we all know, in this county. What we have lacked in this county is an overall health care strategy. We've never had a comprehensive health care strategy, and it's important for a couple of reasons. Number one, we know that health care is a growth sector of our economy, just purely based on the demographics. So if we're going to take advantage, maximum advantage of this growth sector of our economy for taxpayers here in Suffolk and creation of jobs, we need an overall strategy. The second thing is, there are tens of thousands of residents in Suffolk County, particularly those on the East End, who have to travel to Nassau County or feel the need to travel to Nassau County or into the city for essential medical services. That shouldn't be happening. And so we need to develop an overall strategy that will address both of those issues. That means we need to pull in our hospitals, our health centers, Foley, and all of the different health experts in our county to develop a comprehensive strategy. And I think in that sense, Foley can play a big role in that overall comprehensive strategy.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
Okay, so we have the health centers and Foley you wanted to hear about. With the health centers, we missed the boat in not getting qualified as federally qualified health centers. That would have meant millions and millions of dollars coming into this county for our health centers. We have a model healthcare delivery system in our county with our health centers, and we've talked about it for years. We just need to tweak it and make it just a little bit better. The fact that there is a shortfall projected in the health centers, I know the legislature's been working on that, and I think we're going to be taking care of that. So that is not going to be the issue it was. John J. Foley, I have experience. I serve as the chair of a not-for-profit that manages 3 nursing homes, and that nursing home can not only be break-even, it can be profitable. We could change the dynamics of some of the floors. Right now we have 189 beds filled with 260 capacity. We could take 10, 20 of those beds, make them vent beds that are reimbursed at 3 times the rate that a normal bed is. There's a lot that you can do.
Okay. Mr. Ballone, do you want to respond? No? Okay. We have a number of questions relating to policing in Suffolk County, so we'll start, Ms. Carpenter, with you. What's your view of community policing? How can communities and police work together to prevent crime?
Well, I have had a long, proud history of being the chair of the Public Safety Committee in the legislature, putting forth many initiatives that truly embraced and delivered community policing, whether it was bike patrols, the expansion of the COPE units, getting the police right there in the communities so that people, residents, young people, could see them as members of the community, part of the community, not just in confrontational ways. We need to bring our gang units back into the precincts. This idea of an overall gang unit across the county isn't going to work. We need the eyes and ears of the community working hand in hand with the police department. Many of the precincts have first night, like in the 3rd precinct, when residents come out there, but you really have to be willing to listen to what they have to say. You can't go through the mechanics and just make believe you're listening. You really have to care about the community and create an environment that is going to make that difference, and we can do it in our police department if we have the right commissioner.
Thank you. Mr. Ballone?
Well, I think, first of all, the way that law enforcement has been managed in this county has been disgraceful over the past number of years. While we have been fighting about who should be patrolling on highways, we have had a prescription drug epidemic and a heroin epidemic sweep through this county. We have had gangs take root. These criminal organizations who are preying on our kids take root in communities across this county. What we need to do with policing and law enforcement is this. We need to do more intelligence-based policing. That means we deploy the resources of the police department where the crimes are occurring. That is data-based decision-making. That's what we do in Babylon. That's what we're going to do in law enforcement. So we're going to beef up the intelligence-based units in all the precincts and at headquarters. We're going to do more community policing. If you look at the Justice Department report, what it said is we're not doing effective community policing. And if you want to build the intelligence necessary to strike at the heart of these gangs, then you have to have a positive, trusting relationship with the community, and that's what we need to do in the police department.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
I'm using one of these little red cards here.
Yes.
I'd like an explanation of this data-based community policing that you're doing in Babylon that you now want to do with the rest of the county. I didn't know that the town of Babylon had a police department. You're running the police department in Babylon?
No, we do not.
Oh, okay. So you want to explain what your community initiative is in Babylon that you want to bring around the county in policing?
Sure. So what I said is we do data-driven decision-making in the town of Babylon. That means that basically the functions of our government, as I described earlier, that we have broken down and assigned performance measures to all the steps. We monitor the data, whether it's filling potholes or issuing building permits in the building department. So we now know if we're late on something, where the problems are in our organization. We need to take that model to Suffolk County government, but we need to take it to police work as well, so that we are making decisions on deploying resources based on the data that we have in. We need instant data. That's why I will beef up the intelligence units within each of the precincts and intelligence at the headquarters level. And the final thing is we will hold precinct commanders accountable. They will have the tools they need, the resources they need, they will have the intelligence they need, and they will be held accountable. If they do not solve these problems, then there will be a new commander in that precinct.
Thank you. Okay. The Truro Law Center also has a public advocacy center, which the League is happy to be an affiliate member of. It houses a great many worthwhile organizations. This question comes from a group that meets here, and it's, let's see, this one will go first to Mr. Ballone. In light of the incidents of graffiti, vandalism, bullying, and assaults, many of these bias-motivated, and the view of the U.S. Justice Department regarding the bias in Suffolk County, would you be in favor of a proactive anti-bias law enforcement education program? Comment.
Yes, I would, absolutely, and we have to take a comprehensive approach to solving this problem. The first thing I will say, however, is in my administration, we will accurately and fully report hate and bias crimes. These are heinous crimes, and they will be taken with the highest level of seriousness in my administration. Again, I'll say the Justice Department report talked about the fact that, and at the core, that we're not doing an effective job of community policing. You can't build trust in the community if you are not out there. And we have units that are assigned to community policing, but what they said is most of them are actually not doing the work of community policing. They're called community police units, but the exception is those that are doing that type of work. So we need to beef up those units. We need to do that kind of work. And look, this is a comprehensive approach, too. We need, in order to solve these problems in a broader perspective, we need to be looking at alternatives for young people as well. We can't just solve this through a law enforcement approach.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
Certainly there needs to be a focus on addressing the issues of hate crimes, anti-bias, graffiti. Graffiti in a community just demoralizes a community. And we have had many successful programs working in partnership with community groups like the American Red Cross anti-graffiti program to get in there and eradicate that graffiti immediately. Utilizing some of these not-for-profit groups, working in public-private partnerships is a way to address a lot of these issues, not just this one specific one. And I just thought I'd use that opportunity to say that because government can't do it alone, but there are many, many active, successful, outcome-based not-for-profits that are willing to step up and partner with the county. We just have to know that we're using groups that are cost-efficient, cost-effective, and delivering the services that we need.
Thank you.
Oh, such a gentleman. Now you're a gentleman. It's about time.
Sorry.
Okay. The next question comes from a youth organization, and this question will go first to Ms. Carpenter. As county executive, how would you work to create an environment that ensures interdepartmental cooperation, exchange of knowledge and services to the benefit of youth of Suffolk County. How could you create such an initiative that would be supported throughout your term and actually be vital?
Well, since this is coming from a youth organization, I'm going to use this opportunity to talk about one of the agencies that I was, quite frankly, instrumental in helping pull together with many members of the community. And it was Youth Enrichment Services, which is very, very active and very successful in not only the West Islip community where it started, but it branched out to Central Islip, Brentwood, and Bayshore. And this group, working in partnership with government, working in partnership with other not-for-profits like the YMCA, has brought services, preventive services to the youth of our community, has brought communities of kids together that normally would have only been there in a confrontational manner. When you have students from CI, Brentwood, Bayshore, and West Islip working together on a joint art project, these kids develop relationships. They get to see each other not as enemies, but members of one community, and those kinds of things are important.
Mr. Blunt?
I think, as I said earlier, we have to provide opportunities, if we're going to address the issues we're facing, for young people that are being recruited by gangs, that are being sold or being given drugs for free so that they can become hooked. I think the question relates to how do we deal with the system as a whole, and how do we make it work together? And I'll talk about that a little bit. I think in terms of social services, youth services, health services, we need to be looking at these agencies in a system-wide basis, in a holistic basis. We have all of these agencies of county government that end up interacting with kids and families, but from different perspectives. And so often they are the same families. So if we can break down these sort of silos between these agencies, and what I would do is bring these agencies together, and we would start a working group in which we will figure out how to approach holistically providing services to these kids and these families together, which will allow us to do it in a much more cost-effective way.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter, a comment on that?
Well, we do have the Youth Bureau, and all of the agencies do work in an interactive basis already, so I'm glad to hear that there would be support.
Okay. Next question, actually, there were two questions from the audience, so I'll jump to a question that represents them. And this question will go first to Mr. Ballone, right? Yep. Okay. Recent public demonstrations, such as Occupy New York, make reference to the gap between the 1% of wealthiest Americans and the other 99%. Do you think this is an issue for Suffolk County to be concerned about? If you were asked to speak to a group like this, what message would you deliver?
Well, I would say it's a very serious issue, but I would say that it is not something that Suffolk County is going to have an impact on. I'm a big believer in not wasting my time. And I'll be very honest with you about that. There are a lot of issues that you can become involved in, and I've been known to become involved in issues that aren't necessarily within my government's jurisdiction, if it makes sense for our community, if it's because of an important issue. But I will be focused like a laser on the issues and things that we can control in this county to create a more prosperous future for families. Look, I understand the people that are protesting today about income inequality in this country. The same way, by the way, I understand the frustrations that have been expressed through the Tea Party. There is a whole segment of society that brought our country and the world to the brink of economic disaster. And they are all doing extraordinarily well today. But working class and middle class families are still suffering the after effects. So I understand the frustration.
Same question, Ms. Carpenter?
I think in this county, we need to create an environment of opportunity for everyone. And again, back to Solutions for Suffolk, we need solutions. We need someone who has the experience to deliver those practical, sustainable, real solutions. Not gimmicks, not things that are going to sit on a shelf, but real solutions. And I think if we can get out of the logjam of the bureaucracy of government, having the private sector do what they do best, let them create the opportunities for jobs. Businesses have the money to invest if we create an environment to allow them to do it. Again, government needs to be there to help, not get in the way.
Thank you. Okay. All right. The next question goes back to public health. It came from the women's group. And this question goes to Ms. Carpenter first. Investing in family planning is a cost-effective public health strategy that saves money and lives by preventing costlier health problems. Both the Suffolk County Department of Health Services and Planned Parenthood provide confidential family planning services. Do you support continued county spending to ensure that family planning is available for low-income women, men, and teens without restrictions on information about other aspects of reproductive health, including birth control and abortion?
Well, whatever programs are in place in the county, I think we need to look at the outcomes and if they are positive and if they are creating the desired effect. But I think we need to look at education models that address this issue firsthand, that we're not reacting after the fact. I do think that the health centers, the way they're structured now, seem to be working. But again, once we are going through the entire gamut of services in this county and how they're delivered, we need to look and make sure they're being delivered the way they're supposed to be and in a cost-efficient manner that the taxpayers can sustain.
Thank you. Mr. Blount?
Well, as the father of a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, and with one on the way, due in March, I definitely do support family planning. I've had the fortunate situation to have quality health care in government that allows me access to those kind of family planning services. And I think that it is important that government is there to provide those services fairly and evenly to those, we've talked about our health centers, who don't have that kind of quality health care that Angie or I enjoy and others who are in government enjoy.
Okay, the next question actually relates to emergency services, and this one would start with Mr. Ballone. It's two-part. One is Hurricane Irene, and I might add the snowstorm that could have been very bad, showed Long Island as highly vulnerable to natural disasters. On the one hand, what do you plan to do to help Long Islanders prepare themselves for the next calamity? But on the other hand, with budget cuts announced for fire and EMS service, what would you do to help with training and operating budgets since calls are up and money is down? So it's response and planning here.
Sure. Well, planning is very important. During Hurricane Irene, we clearly saw the vulnerabilities we have. We have an infrastructure here in place that is a century old. And quite frankly, there's not much we're going to be able to do about that fact if we are struck by a major hurricane, the type of hurricane that hit Long Island in 1938. We are in for a major, major disaster. We talked about people being out of electricity, out of power for a week, 10 days. Well, it'll be much longer than that if we're actually hit with that kind of hurricane. We need to reform the way LIPA does things. I was on the phone during the course of the hurricane, while the hurricane was still going on, demanding that we had somebody at our headquarters ready to go as soon as the storm lightened up enough to be able to clear the trees off the roadway. There was no effective coordination, so the county executive needs to do I think, much better job, and the county executive needs to lead this.
Thank you.
All the organizing to make sure we're better prepared for the next storm.
Thank you.
Having served as the chairman of the Public Safety Committee, and very, very proactive in that role, I know how the bunker operates. It was not engaged the way it should have been this time. there were too many separations. There were too many towns doing their own things. The way it's supposed to operate, and has in the past, is that bunker is activated, representatives from all of the towns go there, LIPA, the Water Authority, the state police, everyone is there in the bunker. And there's a tremendous coordination of effort, especially with Fire Island and the evacuation that might have to be taking place. We're very lucky that that storm wasn't as bad as it could have been. I was in the fire department and heard a message come over the radio saying, don't count on the county's communication system, it may go down. That is a tragedy. We need to address that. I have that kind of experience. I know how it works. We can't have the towns doing their own things. It has to be a cohesive, coordinated effort. The county has the mechanism to do it. We just need the leadership.
Yeah.
I just want to add, I've had the experience, and some of you may have had this experience as well, calling 911 in the county and actually being put on hold. It was always unimaginable to me that you would be put on hold when you called 911. But that is the situation we've gotten to in this county. And talking about emergency response, when you're in a dire situation and you call 911, you want somebody to answer that phone immediately. And, we have legislators here, Legislator Kennedy, Legislator Montano, who have been fighting to put those resources in. We cannot sacrifice on public safety resources. And we will make sure that does not happen if I'm county executive.
Do you want to respond?
Well, certainly. I hope I didn't say anything that indicated that I would do that. I have that record of that commitment to public safety, whether it's East End Helicopter Service that happened because I got involved and sponsored it, or making sure that the Fire Training Academy had the necessary resources to institute the scholarship program that has increased the number of volunteers since I started that program by 500 volunteers in our fire, rescue, and emergency services community with that volunteer program in Suffolk County coordinated with community college.
Thank you. This question goes to Ms. Carpenter first. The aquifer under Long Island is becoming polluted and overused faster than it's being replenished. It's currently one of the best drinking water sources, but is in grave danger because of all the septic systems and lawn and farm pollution. What priority do you give this issue, and what do you propose to do about it?
Well, there have been many initiatives that I've supported over the years in the legislature with the Drinking Water Protection Program, with the stormwater interceptor programs and everything, the pump-out boats in the bays. These are all things that I have a history of supporting, and there's not going to be any change when I'm the county executive.
Thank you. Mr. Blunt?
Yes, Suffolk County recently released a report that demonstrated that our water quality is declining significantly. And the simple fact is that we need to grow our economy here in a sustainable way. We cannot grow our economy at the expense of our water. It just does not work. So we have to figure this out. And this will be a top priority in my administration. We have in our county a river, the Forge River, that is essentially a dead river here in Suffolk County. The big problem with septics, and septics are one of the issues affecting the degradation of water quality here, is the fact that most people have no idea about their septic systems. When you go to buy a home, you know how old the roof is, you know how old the boiler is, you have no idea about your septic system, how old it is, where it is. Most people don't know anything about it until it overflows. And when that's happening, the environmental damage has already been happening for a long time. So we need to figure out a way to get people to know about the quality of their septic system.
Thank you. As a follow-up, another question. We've gotten a lot of questions over the last couple of weeks about taxes, and we all know that school taxes are really out of the scope of the county executive. However, this one is a twist on that. School budgets are the biggest portion of skyrocketing property taxes, yet many of our schools have extremely inefficient lighting and heating and cooling systems. They're very wasteful. What could the county do to help the schools economically improve energy systems that would lead to a lower energy budget and improve the learning environment? And that goes to you.
Well, I think it's a great question, and I think it's It's what the county needs to be doing as a facilitator. Right now, the idea of consolidating school districts is just not realistic. It's not possible. You know, there's a poll that came out not long ago when people were asked about the idea of consolidation, and people generally said they would support it, not in overwhelming numbers. But then when you drill down and you ask people, well, would you support your district combining with these two districts? The answer is overwhelmingly, no way. I thought you were talking about their district. So if we're going to do efficiency in governments and school governments, we need to do combining backroom operations, doing that, take those initial steps. And I think energy efficiency is a great way to do that. We have a record on energy efficiency in Babylon that actually has been acclaimed nationally. We created the first energy efficiency PACE program in the country where we enable town residents to retrofit their homes, save money, make their home more comfortable, more valuable in a way that helps our environment and reduces cost. And we can do that at the county level with schools as well.
Ms. Carpenter?
I think that what I said earlier about consolidating, not consolidating, but bringing together the governance in the districts and creating a town-wide district for governance, for management, one superintendent in each district, effectuating anywhere from $32 to $40 million worth of savings is the kind of thing we need to look at. I think it's an education process on education. You've got to get out there and talk to the public and let them know that they're going to still have their community schools with their teachers and their principals. But that kind of global governance of a district will force the joint purchasing that has to take place, will force energy initiatives, retrofitting buildings with energy saving, heat, lights, power, and everything else that's concerned. That's the way to do it. You can't think that the county is going to be there offering incentives for green.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we have one more question, and then we'll do the closing statements. There have been a number of questions about affordable housing, and we all know that this generally is a town issue rather than a county-level issue, if at all, particularly, well, in any case, the question is two parts, again. One is, let's see. Are you in favor of trying to promote affordable rental housing? If you are, how would you promote it in communities that oppose it? And also, is there anything the county can do to make foreclosed homes available to families who need them? Can the county in any way work with banks to assist families in reclaiming foreclosed homes? And Ms. Carpenter, that's for you.
As far as foreclosed homes, making those available to families, you know, you'd have to work with the banks, and the laws are pretty strict about what you can and you can't do with that. I know that the county has some vacant parcels, some homes that have been abandoned that we need to look at putting in the hands of perhaps first-time home buyers, or I've been talking with some people about making them available to returning veterans. As far as rental housing, these are issues with the towns, but again, when you've got a county executive who has that kind of leadership that can speak to the towns and get them working together, looking at models like the Long Island Housing Partnership has with intergenerational housing, where you've got a senior in an apartment in a house with a first-time home buyer, you keep the senior here and you make that income available to the first-time home buyer who might not be able to afford it otherwise.
Thank you. Mr. Blum?
If we're going to keep young people here on Long Island, we need to build quality, affordable rental housing. What you will never see me do as county executive is try to force something into a community. I understand, because I've been a town supervisor for 10 years, that zoning and planning is done at the local level. What we need to do at the county level is to provide assistance to communities and to towns and villages to do great planning. That is the key to actually making projects happen, with the community involved right from the start. And when communities come forward with plans that help the county address the major regional challenges that we face, like the lack of affordable quality rental housing and the fact that young people are leaving, When that happens, when that comes out of communities, the county should be there to help make those happen with infrastructure dollars that move those projects, because that is what will enable us to grow this economy, keep young people here, and create a positive future for all of us, and to help end the fiscal crisis by bringing more sales tax revenue into the county.
Okay. That, unfortunately, is the end of the time allotted for questions. We did have a great many more for you, but another time. You do have 2 minutes for closing statements. One question that I did not get to ask, which I hope you can incorporate into your closing statement, is, yeah, 4 years from now, if you're running for re-election as county exec, what would be your most important or tangible accomplishment? How do you picture Suffolk County in 4 years? That's probably part of your close anyway as you look forward. But Mr. Ballone, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you again to Toro Law School and to the League of Women Voters. I want to thank Angie once again, and all of you for coming out tonight. Again, I'm running for county executive. I've lived on Long Island my entire life. I was born in Queens. But my family moved out here when I was 3 years old, and I'm raising my family here now, and it's growing, as you heard. And I want, just like all of you, for your kids and your grandkids, I want my kids to have a great future. But I would really like them to have that future here in Suffolk County. And that's not going to be possible unless government makes the right decisions in the next 5 and 10 years. You know, we've done the kind of long-term thinking and long-term planning in Babylon to set our community up for a prosperous future. The ironic thing is, if I am elected county executive in 6 days, I will be leaving a government that is in excellent condition today to go to a government that is in crisis today. And I'm actually excited about that, because it means that I can start working with this legislature that has been fighting for so long to do the right things in partnership to move our county in the right direction. And what I would want to see in our county in the next 5 and 10 years, or my first term 4 years, I want to see that we've made progress in promoting keeping young people here. That I've set as a goal that we will create America's next research triangle, like the one in North Carolina, because we have these great research institutions here. And instead of our kids going off to North Carolina, they should stay here and take the high-paying jobs we're creating in this county. I want to see law enforcement back together so that we are focused on fighting the gangs who are preying on our kids and ending the prescription drug problem. I want to see that we've made progress on our water quality issues, that we have a Justice Department that is no longer monitoring our county.
Thank you.
Those are the things that I look for in the first term.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
Thank you very much for the opportunity that this forum provides so that you can see us both together, because I think clearly you see the differences. I know that this county is facing some tough financial challenges. I don't think I'd call it in crisis, so don't worry. We have the challenges, but to face them, you've got to have someone that truly has experience. You can't make it up. You can't buy it. You earn it. You earn it by being in the legislature 13 years and being fully engaged in working on every committee, being a full-time legislator, caring about your community. You get there by being a county treasurer, knowing the finance of this county, meeting with the rating agencies, helping the county have one of its best bond ratings ever, in spite of the economic climate that we've been in. And you get it when you've been a business owner, a successful business owner, who's had to address meeting the payroll, who sometimes didn't take a paycheck so that you didn't have to lay somebody off. That experience, that life experience, is what I want to bring to Suffolk County. And I know that given the opportunity, I can really do the job that the residents of this county deserve, that we all deserve, to make Suffolk County a great place to live, not leave. That I know that my kids can stay here, my granddaughter can stay here, and your kids and your grandkids can stay here and not be forced to leave here. And this election, ladies and gentlemen, is really grassroots. It's been a wonderful opportunity to meet with the people and hear what you want. And you want somebody real. You want Angie Carpenter. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Suffolk County, I'd like to thank Touro Law Center, the Student Bar Association, Long Island Women's Agenda, and of course our candidates. The polls are open 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Tuesday. Please go vote. Bring your friends and neighbors, and we look forward to a terrific 4 years.